Hey, it's Bob Melbanian and Matt Hartnett from Shockwave Skull Sessions and Aftershocks. If you'd like to receive access to exclusive episodes from your favorite show and would even like to be a part of it, we've got an offer that you simply can't refuse.
CMSPN now offers our listeners the chance to not only view and listen to exclusive episodes, but to actually participate in one as well. Go to our Subscribestar page at www.subscribestar.com/CMSPN. Our page has 3 monthly subscription tiers for you to choose from, and is a great way to personally connect to your favorite CMSPN show.
Our content will always be free of charge, but if you're looking to have a closer connection to your favorite show, subscribestar.com/CMSPN is the way to go. As always, thanks for listening, and enough of us talking. Here's the episode you actually came here for.
It is Aftershocks right here on AftershocksTV.com. And joining us today to talk about his great new release, The Gospel Truth, is a guy that you've seen maybe with that one little band that he was in at one time, Guns N' Roses, but he's also been out there with a number of other projects and, of course, his own solo stuff. He is the great guitarist, Mr. Gilby Clarke. Gilby, how are you, man?
Chris, I'm fantastic, man. Happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. Well, Gilby, I got to tell you, man, you're making me feel old, and you're making everybody feel old, and you probably don't even realize it. And I didn't realize it. When I was getting ready to do the interview, I went back and I started pulling some of the old records, and my favorite was always Rubber. So I started with Rubber, and I was listening to it, and I was kind of looking things up. I was like, Jesus, Gilby hasn't done a solo record in 20 years. How did 20 years pass? It does not seem like it's been that long, man.
You know, that is just wrong. 20 years. There's so many answers to that question. There was a time where I really thought, rock and roll shouldn't have gray hair, right. But I've changed my opinion. It's like, if you can still stand on stage, sing and play a guitar, you are a hero, first of all, I never really set out to be a solo artist. It was never really something I wanted to do. It was just something that happened. It was something to do when I wasn't doing other things. It's like, it was nice to kind of have that, like, oh, I got nothing going on for the next 3 months. Let's go do some solo dates. It's really the way that I looked at it. So I never really realized it had been that long. Right. And there was a point in there where I definitely had that, well, why do I need to make a record? It's so much work to make a record, and the rewards are so little. The traditional record companies and radio, it's not there. It's, I had that kind of defeatist attitude, to be honest, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine at a show one day, and he kind of set me straight. He was like, you do consider yourself an artist? And I said, absolutely. He goes, well, what are you creating? Yeah. And it really made me think. Sometimes you got to take those real looks at yourself. And it really made me think. And I thought about that for a while. And I go, I never made a record for it to sell. I never really made it for commercial success. I really made it for myself. I had some new songs. I wanted to make a record. So I started that process. And once I started that process, it was so natural. It just felt so good to be writing and recording. What's great about being a solo artist is, you don't have to have the same drummer and bass player on every song. I can use lots of drummers, lots of bass players. So that collaborative thing is really, really fun and extra special. So once I started that, man, it felt good. And I don't know why 20 years went by. I really don't.
Yeah, it's just, it really is amazing that it's been that long. It just doesn't. It does, and obviously you've done other stuff where you've been, obviously the Rockstar Supernova and stuff like that, where you were still in the lexicon to where maybe 20 years doesn't. It just when I first looked at it, I was like, wow, that can't be. I'm looking and thinking that can't be right.
I know. I kind of felt the same way.
Nice. Well, thankfully you are back, and you are back with what I will argue is the best release in your career. the gospel truth. And I'll tell you why. I think, like you just said, you were exploring a lot of different artistic muses with your other releases. This one here, whether it's just because it's where you're at now or you just wanted to make a rock record, this is the most pure rock record I think you've made in your career. Just a straight up rocker. You know, talk a little bit about that, man. Was that indeed the intention, or is it really just where you are now?
There's a yes to both of those questions. Okay. I think, I made an intentional decision that I didn't want to modernize my sound. You know, can I do it? Absolutely. But there are other people that do it so much better, you know, and it's okay to experiment as a musician. That's what we're supposed to do. But I really felt like I wanted to get back to what I do well and also what I like. You know, it's like, still when I go on a motorcycle trip and I put on the headphones, I'll put on a Zeppelin record or Kiss or Rick Derringer. You know, that's what I listen to, Bad Company. Right. So I did make a decision that I really wanted to make the record that I wanted to hear myself, you know, and like I said, it's a different world. There's a lot of modern rock music. I just feel, let them do that. Let me do what I do well. And that's what this record is really all about. Even guitar tones, like I went back and I listened to like Paul Kossoff, you know, once again, Rick Derringer, you know, a Bad Company. You know, I listened to all that stuff because I didn't want that saturated guitar tone. Even early Kiss records, which I love, those Ace Frehley, you know, early Kiss records sounded so good. So, you know, I did make a conscious decision for it to be the way it is.
Right. No question. Now, the one tune that you've already shared with the world is probably the spitting image of the record itself, which is Rock and Roll Is Getting Louder. I love that. It's like one part tribute to Lemmy and then another part almost like a fuck you to everybody that's saying rock is dead. You know, is that indeed what you were trying to say to the
nail
world?
on the head? Boom. Yeah, look, there's so much talk, and I appreciate that there's, you know, some of the great artists that we respect have their opinions. But yeah, I'm out there every day. I meet more people than some of these, you know, legendary artists and stuff, and rock is not dead at all. AC/DC plays to a stadium.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
That's dead. Pink Floyd plays to a stadium. Yeah. You know, come on. Bon Jovi plays to a stadium. Right. Rock is not dead. If it was dead, they'd all be playing in clubs. It's not. It's out there. Sure, some of the classic artists are the ones who are commanding this attention, but it is my statement. Rock and roll is not dead. Rock and roll is getting louder. It's our job to be as good as we were when you made those classic records. Can you honestly say that your new record was as good as Back in Black? You know what I'm saying? It's your job. You have to challenge yourself. You know, you have to get back to what was important to you when you were writing songs. So to me, that's a challenge. Challenge yourself first before you make that statement. So rock and roll to me is getting louder. And as it says in the song, we are all Motorhead.
Right, exactly. And the unique thing about, you know, and it's unique that the guy that's saying that is filling stadiums. You know, just played the biggest concert of 2020 with the Saudi Arabia thing that they did. So
exactly,
it's crazy that it's him saying that. But even more to the point is anybody, if you're even paying, I guess you have to pay a little bit more attention now to see it. Yes. But there is a wide array of bands that are coming out again with the classic flavor that are remembering the, you know, obviously the GNR sound is very much back again. Yeah. And, you know, whether it's Greta Van Fleet or whether it's the LA
Rival Sons, you know,
Rival Sons, all of these bands are coming out, and it's almost a testament to, you know, the work that guys like yourself have done over the years to not only capture a certain sound at a certain time, but it's timeless. You guys, all of you guys, not just you and Guns N' Roses, but all of AC/DC, etc., Motorhead, that music is as listenable today. If you pull out Motorhead 1979 and you play it today, it's every bit as listenable as when you first got it when you were 15 years old or whatever. You know, it's crazy how that is.
Absolutely. And you know, look, there are a lot of bands that haven't survived time, you know, where they have different members in the bands, you know, that are still having successful careers and everything. But it just goes to show that it's the right collection of the right people that made those great records. You may think that the drummer was insignificant in that, but he wasn't. He was very significant in making that record. Sometimes it's the collection of those people that made that great record that is timeless. And when you're making records today, you're saying, oh, it didn't sell well. Well, it's not always about selling. You know, it's about, you know, look, if I sat at a piano right now and I played Imagine by John Lennon to you, you'd still go, that's a great song.
Sure.
I mean, that's all it is. You got to challenge yourself today. And like I said, you know, make something great, whether it's the people that surround you or whatever. I mean, you know, music has changed. I mean, that's just inevitable. Everything changes in life, you know? So, but yeah, you just got to challenge yourself and be up for the challenge.
No question. Now, Gilby, I just last night, and for no other reason than I was bored and I threw it on, I watched a documentary called Hired Gun that featured heavily your drummer on some of this, Kenny Aronoff, and you know, and it was fascinating to me to hear that side of the business, because I, like everybody else, I don't know that side of the business. You know, I know that Kiss is Paul Gene, Ace, you know, and Peter. You know, I don't know that it's Kevin Valentine and, you know, all these other players. Now, you've played both sides of that. You know, you've been obviously in one, at the time, the biggest band in the world. And, you know, you've also been kind of a background, you know, meet a guy that's—
I have been the side guy.
Yeah. You know, talk about which is easier as a, I don't want to say as a musician, but as like a human being. I mean, it just seems like, to me, as a failed drummer that was terrible, you know, it seems to me like you're always would be looking for my band, my project, my thing. But then from listening to guys like Kenny or Steve Lukather, or, you know, guys that are way up there, they seem very, very almost more comfortable in creating hits, writing great songs, but not necessarily having to deal with any of the attention that comes with that. So where do you stand as somebody that's been on both sides?
That is a tricky question.
Okay.
It's a tricky question because you're right. I have been on both sides. And as a matter of fact, even when I got the Guns N' Roses gig, I, in the beginning, kind of thought that I said I was just stepping in for Izzy. I don't think they really knew if Izzy was going to be back or whatever. I kind of thought I was just stepping in and being a hired gun. But it was important to the band that I was a band member. Some of them may say differently now because it's convenient, but at that time, if you look in the tour books, you know, they don't put the replacement member doesn't get pages of pictures and stuff. I was represented as a band member on the records, on the tour programs, everything. That's something they made the choice of. I mean, I was happy to be both. It was such a great gig at the time. The thing about being the band member is it's a lot of responsibility. You know, you get the successes, but you get the failures. You get the other decisions of the business we don't all talk about, the lawyers, the agents, all that stuff that comes with it. You know, so sometimes after you've done it a few times and you have the luxury to say, I just want to be the side guy. Just pay me. This is what I want. If you'll pay me what I want, I'm going to shut my mouth and I'm going to play guitar. And I have done that. I have done that because sometimes you respect the artist and you want to do that. You go, you know what? Their ship is running straight. Let them do their thing. I'll just play guitar and contribute. But sometimes you do want to be part of that success. You want, you know, what you brought to the table is important. Like, I'll never forget, even in the GNR years, I had never had more lawyers ever than when I was in that band. I used to say, why do I have 3 lawyers on retainer to play guitar in a rock and roll band?
Yeah, it's crazy. And
I just play guitar. I don't even open my mouth. So that's what I'm saying is there's a lot of responsibility comes with that if you are the band guy, and some guys get to a point where they go, just pay me. You know, like I said, the ship is running straight. You don't need me. I'll do my job, but you don't need my opinion about the other stuff.
Sure. Now, I'm going to ask this. It's going to sound weird, but just bear with me till the end of the question. Then you can tell me it's a dumb question if you want. But I've always thought for you personally, that the Guns N' Roses association hurt more than helped. And the reason I'll say that is certainly it got you established and it put your name out there where everybody knew it. But you generally, album to album, song to song, were not writing songs that sounded like Welcome to the Jungle or, things like Sweet Child of Mine. And anytime anybody saw your name and bought a record, that's what they were looking for.
Yeah.
It's somewhat, it's obviously a double-edged sword, but how do you look at it, especially now that time has gone on and you've had plenty of time to, do your whole solo career as well as, other projects?
Well, it's interesting you say that because, you can look back at that now and think that, did it help or did it hurt? Look, it definitely helped at the time. I'll tell you that, because I had just come off back-to-back major label signed bands that I was the main reason that the band got signed. I was the primary songwriter in Kill for Thrills, singer, guitar player, and it wasn't successful. So I was at a point like going, what? I'm beating my head against. I've seen all my friends are successful. It's like, what did I do wrong? I thought the record sounded pretty good,
right?
So when Guns came along, I was happy to step into that. But yes, I was never a metal guy. It's like if you're, or, hard rock guy, to be honest. If you listen to the Kill for Thrills album, it doesn't really sound that different from the Gospel Truth. Right. What I do, in Guns. But to me, what was great about Guns was they had that metal guitar playing that Slash was doing, the Stones of what Izzy was doing, the funk that Duff and Steven, and then, Axl singing. It was a combination of everything that made a band like that could do Welcome to the Jungle and do Sweet Child of Mine. Mm-hmm. So I respected that about the band. And I always felt like, bands that I liked, like, Queen, their records were all over the place. They had some hard rock, but then they had 39, and then they have Somebody to Love. That's the way I saw things, And so, like, when you hear my first record, Pawn Shop Guitars, I understood that a lot of GNR fans weren't going to get it. They were going to hear Cure Me or Kill Me and go, oh, right, this sounds like Guns N' Roses. But then they're going to hear Skin and Bones and go, what the hell is he doing? Or Joanna's Chopper. It sounds like the Beatles. So I knew that. But you know what? More than anything, it was important to me to make the record that I was capable of. And once again, most of those songs were 10 years old anyway. So.
Right. No doubt, man. Well, let's swing it back to Gospel Truth, because I don't want to turn this into a GNR 30-year-old conversation. But, the tune that I like the best on the record is Dangerous Sin. I love the groove of that tune. And it's just, it's just that, like most of the songs on it, but that one especially is just that, fist in the air, pumping, rock and roll song, man. So talk a little bit about that one. Specifically, did you write that, maybe that one, but also just in general, do you write to music? Meaning, do you write words to music, or do you have concepts that you craft music to?
That's a very good question, because every song is different.
Okay.
Every song is different. By the way, here's what I love about making a record is that you can pick the 6th or 7th track as your favorite track. Most people go within the first 3 to 4, so thank you for that.
Sure.
That riff was written while I was watching the Lakers. Whenever I'm watching a Lakers game, I have a guitar on, whether it's an acoustic guitar or my electric guitar. I have a small little amp, and I'm watching the basketball game and I'm playing guitar. And the riff, that was the riff first. That song 100% came out of a riff that I liked, and it just grew. It just kind of grew from there. Started writing some words down and stuff. The title came probably last, as I was, writing the song. So each one is different. Even songs like Rock and Roll is Getting Louder, oddly enough, came from a bass riff. I couldn't decide if the guitar was going to do what the bass was going to do. It's like they're all different. Once the title came along, I wrote the words to the title of that song. The title came first, then the lyrics came first. When I'm in writing mode, I have a notebook and I'm writing ideas down, something that affects you, or I tend to write more from an observer's point of view than personal experience. I mean, it's kind of intertwined, but yeah, that song definitely came from the riff and it grew from there.
Very cool. Now you obviously had special guests that played obviously Nikki Sixx, Stephen Perkins, Aronoff, that played on the record. Do you write to what they do, or is it just, hey bro, that's been a friend for 30 years, come on over, I got these tunes to write? Or how do you go about picking who you're going to feature on your record?
Well, first of all, what is great about a solo record is that you don't have to use one bass player and one drummer. I have that luxury. Thank God most of my friends are incredibly talented.
Right.
But no, I picked them to the song. Look, Kenny Aronoff can play every song on this record with his eyes closed.
Right.
Stephen Perkins can play every song on this record with his eyes closed. But I know these guys well enough that there's some things they do that's really unique. There's Stephen Perkins has got this swing, and his creativity when he hears a song and how he plays that song is different from anybody. So I know, I go, this song has got this groove. This is Kenny. This is Stephen Perkins. I use Jorma Vic, who's the drummer in Eagles of Death Metal, also was in a band called Bronx, played on the ending. He's the right guy for that song. My drummer, Troy Pack-Farrell, plays in my live band, did Wise Old Timer. I knew he was going to nail that groove. And the same thing, bass. Sean McNabb can play bass on every song. He's talented. But I want to spread the love around. Like I said, I got a lot of friends. I want them to be a part of it. I want them to feel like this record is theirs as much as it is mine.
Right. And the ironic thing is, most people can't just say, well, I've got this guy that was in,
I know,
that sold 100 million records, and this guy, well, he's not as good. He only sold 40 million records. Your friend set is amazing.
No, thank you. I know that. I do know that. I look, there's a lot of luck involved too. Like I said, you're right. You put the call out, they return the call. I mean, it might be hard if I called Brian May, maybe he might not return the call, but no, you're right. I am lucky. We do have a great friend base. Everybody that's on this record, I've been out to dinner with, lunch with, had a drink with.
Very good, man. Excellent. And then one last question about the record. The song Gospel Truth itself, to me anyway, and this is outsider looking in, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it really seems like that might be the most focused lyrical track you maybe have ever done. Is that the case? It seems like you had, like, the rest of the stuff is a lot of just kind of rock and roll and a lot of rock and roll themes. That one there seems very deep, very like you had something specifically you wanted to say.
Yes. Well, once again, good. You did a good job at picking that out. One thing about this record is I wanted all the lyrics to be better. That was a conscious decision.
Okay.
I didn't want to be repetitive. I didn't want to be redundant. We've all heard records where you've heard the same lyric on every record they've ever done. Or worse than that, what the rhyme is going to be. I hate that. I hate when I hear a song or a record where I know what the chord change is going to be. I know what the rhyme is going to be. I worked hard that you don't know what the rhyme is going to be, that you don't know what the next chord is going to be. I mean, this is conscious stuff that I really worked towards. The Gospel Truth was really just about current times. I'm so tired of the bullshit. Sorry about this cussing. I'm so tired of, because of Instagram and Twitter, and don't get me wrong, I like Instagram, I like Twitter, that if somebody says something, you don't have to back it up. It's like they just take it because they're too lazy. It's like, because you said it, it's true. Well, no, it's not true. Like, it was always a little chuckle. Oh, here's my resume. Oh, I lied about a couple things. Now people just lie about everything, and nobody follows them up. There's no follow up. So I've never lived my life that way. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth. I mean, I get in trouble sometimes, but I'm telling you the truth. I think that's important. I think the truth is important. Sure. I mean, if I'm feeding you bull all the time, then I'm bull. you know, and then what good am I? Why then you don't believe my guitar playing? You don't believe my live performance. And what's the point of playing live, you know? So that's me. It's just me concentrating on what's important to me.
Right. Dude, that's your Midwest that's your Midwest upbringing stepping in, man. I'm in Cleveland, so I have the same exact, you know, I'm going to tell you straight up no matter what you think. And what's the most ironic about what you just said is that you gain more respect when you call people out for honestly. You lose all respect when you just blindly go with whatever and then talk shit about people behind their back.
Yeah. Exactly. But I always believe that, you know, there's good ones, there's bad ones, there's ugly ones. You know, I made a choice. I want to be one of the good ones. You know, I want to be able to, you know, call up Billy Gibbons on the phone and have a conversation about guitars, but he picks up the phone because he knows I'm a dude. I'm a real dude. You know, he gets so much smoke blown up his ass. He can tell the difference. He's a smart guy, but you know, we're friends. And once again, you know, he knows the difference. That's important to me.
Absolutely, man. Well, for people that want to learn the difference, then they want to learn the gospel truth. They need to get the release. It is called The Gospel Truth. It is Gilby Clarke. And Gilby, where should we send people to keep up with you online and see, you know, buy the record, see show dates when they're ever available and all that stuff?
No matter what, my website is still gilbyclarke.com, and it always will, you know, steer you in the direction. I mean, sometimes there's rumors about shows. If it's not on the website, it's not true. My Instagram is GilbyGTR because somebody took my name. And same thing. I think my Facebook is GilbyGTR too. I'm terrible on Facebook. I've never once looked at my messages, but I like Instagram. I do my Instagram. I do my Twitter. I think Twitter is just Gilby Clarke. But no matter what, gilbyclarke.com will give you all the information you need.
Very good. Well, once again, Gilby, the album is called The Gospel Truth. And Gilby, thanks so much for joining us here on Aftershocks.
You got it, Chris. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com. For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.
All right, everybody, another great interview right here on Aftershocks TV. And before we go, just want to remind you one more time, make sure you get over and subscribe to the CMS Podcast Network, CMSPN.com. You can watch, you can listen, you can subscribe to everything that we do. Not only us, but the classic metal shows, Shockwave Skull Sessions, Talk to Me. It's all there, one site. Get 4 great shows. Never have to do anything again but be entertained. So check it out, cmspn.com, cmspn.com, cmspn.com. Until next time, folks.